Dear listener, you are welcome. This is part 4. In the third part of this series, we told the stories of everyone from William McKinley, the 25th President of the United States, to Gerald Ford, the 38th President. If you want to listen to the first part, second part, and third part, it is on our channel and the link is given in this video description. In this episode, we will start telling the story from the 39th President of the United States. Now, let's take a journey to learn about the rest of these presidents and the stories they created for this great country. Mr. Jimmy Carter. He was the 39th President of United States of America. Once upon a time, in a small town called Plains, Georgia, a baby boy was born on October 1st, 1924. His name was James Earl Carter Jr., but everyone called him Jimmy. His father was named James Earl Carter Sr., and he was a hardworking man who sold peanuts and ran a little farm store. Jimmy's mother was named Lillian, and she was a kind and brave nurse who helped everyone in town, no matter their skin color or how poor they were. Jimmy grew up in a wooden house that didn't have electricity or running water. He helped on the family farm, feeding chickens, picking peanuts, and milking cows. Life was simple but full of love and learning. Jimmy liked to read books, and he especially loved learning about the world and how things worked. When Jimmy was a little boy, he had a best friend who was African American. This was very rare at the time in the South, where people were often treated unfairly just because of their skin color. Jimmy didn't understand why the world worked that way, and even as a child, he wanted to make it better. In school, Jimmy was quiet but smart. He listened carefully, asked questions, and always did his homework. He loved math and science and dreamed of one day going to the Naval Academy so he could become an officer in the Navy. When Jimmy was old enough, he went to college at Georgia Southwestern College, and then he transferred to Georgia Tech. But his dream came true when he got accepted into the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. Jimmy studied very hard and graduated near the top of his class in 1946. After that, Jimmy joined the U.S. Navy. He worked on submarines deep under the ocean. He learned all about nuclear power and even worked on one of the first atomic submarines. He was very smart and serious about his job. People respected him because he never gave up and always stayed calm, even when things were hard. While Jimmy was still in the Navy, he married a sweet and beautiful girl named Rosalind Smith. They had known each other since they were little kids growing up in Plains. Rosalind was kind, clever, and strong. She became his best friend, and together, they built a life full of love and teamwork. They would go on to have 4 children and stay married for over 75 years. But something sad happened. Jimmy's father passed away in 1953, so Jimmy made a big decision. He left the Navy and returned home to Plains to take care of the family peanut farm. The farm had problems and money was tight, but Jimmy worked hard to fix things. He learned everything he could about farming, and soon the farm was doing better. Jimmy also cared about the people in his town. He joined the local school board and started speaking up for fairness. He didn't like how African Americans were treated unfairly, and he believed all people should have equal rights. This made some people upset, but Jimmy stood strong because he believed in doing what was right. He decided to run for the Georgia State Senate in 1962. It wasn't easy, and at first, some people even tried to cheat in the election to keep him from winning. But Jimmy didn't give up. He fought for the truth, and when the real votes were counted, he won. In the Senate, Jimmy worked hard to help farmers, schools, and poor families. He kept his promises and stayed honest, even when others weren't. People started to notice him and thought he might make a great governor. So in 1970, Jimmy ran for governor of Georgia, and he won. In his first speech as governor, he shocked everyone by saying, "The time for racial discrimination is over." That was a brave thing to say in Georgia at that time, but Jimmy believed in fairness, and he wasn't afraid to say so. As governor, he helped improve schools, brought more African Americans and women into government jobs, and tried to protect the environment. He made things more open and fair. But soon, Jimmy began thinking even bigger. He thought, maybe I could help the whole country. In 1976, Jimmy Carter ran for President of the United States. Not many people outside Georgia had heard of him at first. He didn't have lots of money or big fame, but he traveled all over the country, shaking hands, meeting people and promising something simple but powerful. "I will never lie to you." People believed in him. After a hard campaign, Jimmy Carter won the election. He became the 39th president of the United States. As president, Jimmy worked to help the economy, which was having a hard time. He encouraged people to save energy, even wearing sweaters in the White House to keep heating costs low. He put solar panels on the roof of the White House and talked about caring for the earth, even before most people were thinking about climate change. He also helped bring peace between two countries that had been enemies, Egypt and Israel. In 1978, he invited their leaders to a place called Camp David. After days and days of talks, they finally agreed to make peace. This was called the Camp David Accords, and it was one of Jimmy's proudest moments. But being president wasn't easy. There was a lot of trouble in the world. In Iran, Americans were taken hostage in the US Embassy, and no matter how hard he tried, Jimmy couldn't get them home quickly. This made people very upset, and he felt very sad, too. In 1980, Jimmy ran for president again, but he lost to Ronald Reagan. It was a hard time for Jimmy. He had tried his best, but things didn't go the way he hoped. Still, Jimmy didn't give up. After leaving the White House, he began a new kind of life, a life of service. He and Rosalind started an organization called the Carter Center. It helped fight diseases, support democracy, and bring peace around the world. They traveled to many countries, helping people get clean water, free elections, and better health. One of the biggest things Jimmy helped with was wiping out a disease called guinea worm. It's a terrible sickness that hurt people in poor countries, but thanks to Jimmy and his team, the disease almost disappeared from the whole world. He also built houses for people with Habitat for Humanity. Even when he was in his 90s, Jimmy picked up a hammer and helped build homes for families who had no place to live. Jimmy loved reading, writing books, painting pictures, and teaching Sunday school at his church. He ate simply. His favorite foods were peanut butter, vegetables, and grits. He loved being outdoors, fishing, and spending time with Rosalind and their big, happy family. Jimmy Carter had some hard times, losing the election, feeling sad about the hostages, and facing health problems in his old age. But he also had wonderful times, bringing peace, helping the poor, and being surrounded by love. He won many awards, including the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002 for all his work helping people around the world. He also received the Presidential Medal of Freedom and many honors for being a true helper and peacemaker. People admire Jimmy Carter because he always tried to do what was right. He wasn't perfect, but he was honest, kind, and brave. He didn't live for fame or money. He lived to serve, to care, and to bring light into dark places. Americans love him not just because he was president, but because he never stopped being good. He kept giving, kept helping, and kept believing in kindness. And so, the story of Jimmy Carter is the story of a small-town boy who grew up to be a man of peace, a man of truth, and a man of service. Mr. Ronald Reagan. He was the 40th President of United States of America. Once upon a time, in a small apartment above a store in Tampico, Illinois, a baby boy was born on February 6, 1911. His name was Ronald Wilson Reagan. His father was named Jack Reagan. Jack was a cheerful man who loved to tell jokes and stories, but he had trouble keeping a job, and sometimes he drank too much. Ronald's mother was named Nellie. She was kind and loving and always taught her children to help others, be kind, and believe in God. Nellie had a big heart and was always helping people in need. Ronald had an older brother named Neil, and the two boys grew up in a small town called Dixon, where they played by the river, climbed trees, and dreamed big dreams. Ronald was called Dutch as a nickname because he had a round little face like a Dutchman's, and his dad liked that name. Ronald's family didn't have a lot of money, but they had love, laughter, and faith. As a boy, Ronald loved animals, swimming in the Rock River, and watching the stars. He worked hard in school and loved reading books. He had a special gift for speaking clearly and making people smile. In high school, Ronald was good at sports, especially football and swimming. He also acted in school plays and was a lifeguard during the summer. He saved 77 people from drowning during his years at the river, a true hero even as a teenager. After high school, Ronald went to Eureka College in Illinois. He didn't come from a rich family, so he worked many jobs to help pay for school. He studied economics and sociology, played football, ran track, acted in plays, and even served as student body president. He was very busy, but he always had a smile. After college, Ronald wanted to be a sports announcer. He got a job at a radio station where he used his strong voice to tell baseball games on the radio. He made the games sound so exciting, even when he was reading the plays off a sheet of paper instead of watching them live. One day, Ronald went to California to cover a baseball team, and while he was there, something amazing happened. He got a screen test at a movie studio. The people liked his warm voice and kind smile, and just like that, Ronald Reagan became a Hollywood actor. Ronald made more than 50 movies over the years. He played cowboys, soldiers, and everyday heroes. People liked him because he was honest, kind, and full of charm. During World War II, he joined the army but stayed in California to make training films for the military. He helped soldiers learn through the power of film. Ronald also became involved in the Screen Actors Guild, which is a group that helps protect actors' rights. He was elected president of that group and learned how to be a leader, how to speak up for others, and how to handle big problems. During his time in Hollywood, Ronald met a lovely actress named Nancy Davis. She was smart, sweet, and had sparkling eyes. They fell in love and got married in 1952. They had 2 children together, Patty and Ron Jr., and Ronald had 2 older children, Maureen and Michael, from his first marriage to actress Jane Wyman. Ronald and Nancy were very close. They wrote letters to each other, held hands often, and called each other their best friend. As Ronald got older, he started to care more about how the country was being run. He had once been a Democrat, which means he believed in certain ways of helping people. But over time, his beliefs changed, and he became a Republican because he felt that people should have more freedom and less government control in their lives. Ronald started giving speeches about the country and what he believed. People liked the way he talked. It was like listening to a wise neighbor who cared about your life. He believed America was special and full of hope. In 1966, Ronald ran for governor of California, and he won. People were surprised because he had been an actor, not a politician, but he showed he could lead. As governor, he worked hard to fix problems, balance the state budget, and help people get jobs. He served 2 terms and then took a break from politics. But soon, Ronald had a new dream. He wanted to become president of the United States. He believed he could help America be strong again, full of hope, pride, and peace. In 1980, he ran for president and won. He became the 40th president when he was 69 years old, the oldest man elected president at that time. His wife Nancy stood by his side, and they moved into the White House. Ronald's time as president was filled with big events. On his very first full day in office, something incredible happened. American hostages who had been held in Iran for over a year were finally released and brought home. Ronald believed in something called Reaganomics. This meant he wanted to lower taxes so people could keep more of their money. He also believed in reducing government rules and helping businesses grow. Some people liked these ideas while others thought they were unfair to the poor. He worked to make the military stronger to keep America safe. He believed that peace could come through strength. He also helped bring down something very big and very famous, the Berlin Wall. That wall had separated East and West Germany for a long time, and Ronald gave a powerful speech where he said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." A few years later, the wall came down and people celebrated freedom. But not everything was easy. In 1981, just a few months after becoming president, Ronald was shot by a man trying to get attention. The bullet hit him in the chest and he nearly died. But Ronald stayed strong, made jokes with the doctors, and healed with courage. The whole country prayed for him. He also faced trouble during something called the Iran-Contra affair. It was a complicated event where secret deals were made that broke rules. Ronald said he didn't know about all the details, but he took responsibility. It was a hard time. Still, people loved Ronald. They called him the Great Communicator because he knew how to explain things so everyone could understand. He smiled often, told stories, and believed in America with all his heart. Ronald was elected again in 1984, winning by a huge number of votes. He served 2 full terms and helped make people feel proud of their country again. After leaving the White House in 1989, Ronald and Nancy went home to California. He gave speeches, wrote his memoirs, and spent time with his family. But in 1994, Ronald wrote a letter to the American people with some sad news. He had Alzheimer's disease. This meant his memory would slowly fade, and he would need more care. He spent his final years in quiet, with Nancy always by his side, holding his hand and reading to him. She loved him deeply and cared for him until the very end. Ronald Reagan passed away in 2004 at the age of 93. People all around the country mourned his loss and remembered him with love. Ronald Reagan loved jelly beans. He kept them in the White House and gave them to guests. He enjoyed horseback riding, working on his ranch, and reading Western books. He liked simple food like meatloaf and mashed potatoes. He received many awards, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom and the Congressional Gold Medal. He is remembered as someone who helped end the Cold War and brought pride back to the American people. People liked Ronald Reagan because he believed in dreams. He made people feel strong again, reminded them to believe in themselves, and always saw the best in the future. He was full of hope, kindness, and faith. Ronald Reagan once said, "America is too great for small dreams." He believed in big dreams, and he lived one. From a little boy in a tiny Illinois apartment to a Hollywood star to President of the United States. His life was a story of courage, charm, and belief. George H.W. Bush. He was the 41st President of United States of America. Once upon a time, in a big house in Milton, Massachusetts, a baby boy was born on June 12, 1924. His name was George Herbert Walker Bush. He had a long name just like some fairy tale kings, but everyone just called him George. He was born into a family that was kind and thoughtful. His father's name was Prescott Bush. Prescott was a smart man who later became a U.S. Senator. His mother's name was Dorothy Walker Bush. Dorothy was very loving and always taught her children to be kind, honest, and brave. George grew up in a happy home with his brothers and sisters. He learned to help others and to always tell the truth. He loved to play sports, especially baseball, and he liked to fish with his family. George's family was very close, and they often spent summers at their home in Kennebunkport, Maine, by the sea. George loved the ocean very much, and the sea would always hold a special place in his heart. When George was old enough, he went to school like all children do. He was a smart boy and worked very hard in class. He went to a special school called Phillips Academy in Andover, Massachusetts. At that school, he played baseball and even captained the team. He was tall, polite, and a good leader. Then something very big happened in the world. A terrible war started called World War II. George was only 18, but he wanted to help his country. So he joined the Navy and became the youngest pilot in the Navy at that time. He flew airplanes called torpedo bombers. One day, during a mission, his plane was shot down by enemies, but George stayed brave. He finished his mission and then parachuted out of the burning plane into the sea. Luckily, a submarine found him and saved him. George was given medals for his bravery. After the war ended, George came home and went to college at Yale University. At Yale, he studied hard and played baseball. He even played in the first 2 College World Series. He graduated in just 2.5 years, which is very fast, because he was so eager to start a family and begin working. George married a lovely young woman named Barbara Pierce on January 6, 1945. They had met at a dance when they were teenagers, and they fell in love. Their marriage was full of love, laughter, and kindness. George and Barbara were together for more than 70 years. That's longer than many people live. They had 6 children, including one named George W. Bush, who would later become president too. After college, George started working. He moved to Texas and began a job in the oil business. He worked very hard and built a successful company. But even though he was doing well in business, George felt something was missing. He wanted to help more people and make the world better. So he decided to go into politics. George started by becoming the chairman of the Harris County Republican Party in Texas. Then he ran for the U.S. Senate, but he lost. Still, he didn't give up. He later became a member of Congress. People liked George because he was honest, respectful, and didn't shout or fight. He just wanted to do what was right. George was asked to take on important jobs. He became the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. Then he worked in China to help America understand that country better. After that, he became the director of the CIA, where he worked to keep America safe. He was good at solving problems and keeping secrets when he had to. Then, in 1980, he tried to become president, but a man named Ronald Reagan won. But Ronald liked George and asked him to be his vice president. George said yes. He became vice president and served for 8 years. He worked quietly and kindly, always supporting President Reagan. In 1988, George ran for president again. This time, he won. He became the 41st president of the United States. People cheered and were proud. George had worked hard his whole life, and now he had the chance to lead the country. As president, George did many important things. One of the biggest was helping end a long, scary time called the Cold War. The Cold War was when America and the Soviet Union didn't fight with weapons but didn't trust each other. George helped bring peace with careful talks and by being calm. People say he was like a quiet captain steering a big ship through stormy seas. Another big thing happened when a country called Iraq invaded its neighbor, Kuwait. George worked with many other countries and led a war called the Gulf War to stop Iraq and protect Kuwait. The war was short, and George made sure it ended quickly with as few lives lost as possible. George also signed laws to help people with disabilities. One of them was called the Americans with Disabilities Act. It made sure that people who use wheelchairs or have other difficulties could go to school, get jobs, and live full lives. This made many people happy, but not everything was easy. The economy had troubles and some people lost jobs. George had promised not to raise taxes, but then he did because he thought it was the right thing to do for the country. Some people were upset, and it made it harder for him to be reelected. In 1992, he lost the election to a man named Bill Clinton. Even though he lost, George was graceful. He left a kind note for Bill Clinton wishing him well. That note became famous because it showed how respectful and humble George was. After being president, George didn't go away. He helped raise money for people in need. When disasters happened, like hurricanes or tsunamis, George helped gather money and supplies. He even worked side by side with Bill Clinton, the man who beat him in the election. They became good friends, showing the world that people can work together, even if they were once rivals. George loved spending time with his family. He especially loved being with his grandchildren. He liked to go fishing, ride on boats, and jump out of airplanes. Even when he was old, on his 90th birthday, he went skydiving again. That's how brave and adventurous he was. George loved to eat pork rinds, a crunchy snack. He liked baseball, especially his favorite team, the Houston Astros. He read a lot and always tried to learn more. He and Barbara lived in Maine during summers and in Texas in the winters. He won many awards. He got the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest award a civilian can get in the U.S. People honored him for his kindness, leadership, and lifetime of service. The saddest times in George's life were losing his daughter Robin to leukemia when she was only 3 years old. It broke his heart. But George never lost his faith or his hope. He believed in family, in goodness, and in doing what was right. The happiest times in his life were simple moments: fishing with his family, holding Barbara's hand, watching his son become president, seeing his grandchildren grow up, and making people smile. People liked George because he was gentle, calm, respectful, and always thought of others. He wasn't loud or boastful. He listened. He cared. He believed in service over self. He was a hero in war and a helper in peace. He didn't try to be famous. He just tried to be good. George H.W. Bush passed away on November 30th, 2018, at the age of 94. The whole country remembered him with love and respect. He was laid to rest beside his wife Barbara and their little daughter Robin. And so, George's story is not just the story of a president, but the story of a kind and brave boy who grew up to serve others. He flew through the sky, walked through war, led a nation, and still smiled at his grandchildren with soft, twinkling eyes. In the end, What mattered most to George wasn't the power he held or the office he sat in, but the people he loved, the lives he touched, and the world he helped to heal. Mr. Bill Clinton. He was the 42nd President of United States of America. A long time ago, on August 19, 1946, a baby boy was born in a small town called Hope, in the state of Arkansas, USA. His name was William Jefferson Clinton, but most people call him Bill Clinton. Bill's mom's name was Virginia, and she was a very kind woman who took good care of him. Bill's dad died before he was born, so his mom raised him mostly by herself, and later she married a man named Roger Clinton. Because of this, Bill sometimes used the last name Clinton. When Bill was a little boy, he was very curious and smart. He liked reading books and learning new things. At school, Bill worked really hard. Even though he wasn't the tallest or the strongest kid, he dreamed big and wanted to do great things. Bill loved playing the saxophone, which is a musical instrument that makes jazzy sounds. Music made him happy and he practiced a lot. After finishing high school, Bill went to college. He first went to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. There, he learned about government and how countries work. He wanted to help people and make the world a better place. Later, Bill went to study law at Yale University, one of the best schools for lawyers. There, he met a woman named Hillary Rodham. They became very good friends and later got married. Hillary would also become very important in politics. Bill started working as a lawyer and teacher, but he didn't just want to be any lawyer, he wanted to help people by working in government. So he decided to get into politics, which means helping to make decisions for the country and the people. When Bill was still young, he ran for a job called Attorney General in Arkansas. This job is like being the top lawyer for the state. He won and worked hard to make things better. After that, he became the governor of Arkansas, which means he was the leader of the whole state. People liked him because he wanted to help schools and make the state a better place to live. Bill wanted to do even bigger things. So, in 1992, he decided to run for president of the United States. The president is like the captain of a big ship, the country. Bill promised to help people get better jobs, improve schools, and keep the country safe. He won the election and became the 42nd president when he was just 46 years old, one of the youngest presidents ever. As president, Bill did many good things. He helped create jobs so more people could work and earn money. He worked on making schools better and made sure people could have health care. He also helped keep peace in other countries and tried to make the world safer. One of Bill's biggest projects was something called the economic boom. This means the country's economy was doing really well, and many people were getting jobs and money. The country was happy and growing. People liked Bill because he was friendly, talked to everyone like a neighbor, and seemed to understand people's problems. He was good at explaining things and making friends with leaders from other countries. But life wasn't always easy for Bill. He had some very hard times too. There were some problems when people said he didn't tell the truth about certain things. This caused a lot of trouble, and some people didn't trust him as much. This was a very sad and difficult time for him and his family. Even with those tough times, Bill kept working hard and helped the country grow. Many people remember him for the good times and the big changes he helped make. Bill and Hillary have been married for a long time, and they have one daughter named Chelsea. Bill loves spending time with his family and reading books when he can. He also enjoys music and playing the saxophone just like when he was a boy. Bill likes to eat simple foods. He enjoys Southern cooking, things like barbecue and fried chicken, which are popular in Arkansas. Throughout his life, Bill has received many awards for his work helping people and making peace around the world. People respect him for his energy, his big smile, and his wish to help others. Americans like Bill Clinton because he showed that even someone from a small town can grow up to help a whole country. He worked to make life better for many people and tried to bring everyone together. In the end, Bill Clinton's story is one of dreams, hard work, friendship, and learning from mistakes. His life shows us that being kind, working hard, and never giving up can lead to wonderful things. Mr. George W. Bush. He was the 43rd President of United States of America. Once upon a time, in a city called New Haven, in the state of Connecticut, a baby boy was born on July 6, 1946. His name was George Walker Bush. He was the son of George H.W. Bush and Barbara Pierce Bush. His dad was a very important man who later became the 41st President of the United States. George W. Bush grew up in a big family with many brothers and sisters, and they all loved to spend time together. When George was a little boy, he went to school just like other kids. He was not always the best student, but he worked hard and loved sports, especially baseball. In school, he enjoyed playing outside with his friends and learning new things. After finishing high school, George went to college. First, he studied at Yale University, which is a famous school. There, he learned a lot about history and politics. Later, he went to the University of Texas and got a degree in business. After college, George didn't just want to sit and study. He wanted to work and help others. He tried different jobs. He was in the oil business, helping with energy companies. He also bought a baseball team called the Texas Rangers because he loved baseball so much. This showed that he liked both business and sports. But soon, George felt a strong desire to serve his country, just like his father. So he decided to enter politics. George started his political journey by running for governor of Texas. A governor is like the boss of a state, helping to make important decisions for the people who live there. He became the governor in 1995 and worked hard to improve schools, fix roads, and create jobs. People saw him as a leader who cared about them. He was governor for 2 terms, which means he worked in that job for 8 years. In 2000, something very big happened in George's life. He ran for president of the United States. This is one of the most important jobs in the whole country. After a very close and sometimes confusing election, he became the 43rd president. Being president was a huge responsibility, and George worked very hard. During his time as president, George faced many challenges. One of the hardest moments was on September 11, 2001, when bad people attacked the United States. This day is remembered as 9/11. George helped the country come together and promised to keep everyone safe. He started new programs to fight terrorism and protect the people. He also led the country in wars in Afghanistan and Iraq to stop those who wanted to hurt others. Besides these serious times, George worked on important projects to help Americans. He wanted to improve education so kids could learn better, and he worked on making the country stronger. He helped create laws to protect the environment and tried to make health care better for families. Some people loved the things he did, and others didn't agree with everything, but many respected how hard he worked. George's personal life was full of love and family too. He married a wonderful woman named Laura Bush, and they have twin daughters named Barbara and Jenna. George loved spending time with his family, reading books, and even painting pictures. Yes, painting. It was his hobby, something he enjoyed quietly when he wasn't busy being president or working. He liked simple foods too, especially homemade barbecue and Tex-Mex dishes like tacos. Even though being president was a big honor, George had some tough times. The wars were very difficult, and many people didn't agree with all his decisions. He also faced criticism during natural disasters, like when Hurricane Katrina hit. But through all this, he stayed strong and kept trying to do his best. After finishing his presidency, George didn't stop helping others. He worked on projects to help veterans, children, and communities. He even joined his friend Bill Clinton to help with disaster relief in places affected by hurricanes and earthquakes. People saw a different side of him, a kind and caring man who wanted to make the world better. Many Americans like George W. Bush because they remember how he stood strong during scary times and tried to make the country safe. He received several awards, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom, one of the highest honors in the United States. This showed how much his work was appreciated. The best times in George's life include his family moments, becoming president, and helping his country during hard times. The hardest times were the attacks on September 11th, the wars, and dealing with natural disasters. Through it all, he showed courage and hope. Mr. Barack Obama. He was the 44th President of United States of America. Once upon a time, in a faraway place called Hawaii, a baby boy was born on August 4, 1961. His name was Barack Hussein Obama II. He had warm brown eyes and a big, curious smile. His mother's name was Dunham, a kind woman who loved to learn. She was from Kansas, a place with big fields and small towns. His father's name was Barack Obama Sr., a smart man from Kenya, a country in Africa. Barack's parents met in college at the University of Hawaii. They were from very different parts of the world, but they both believed in learning and making the world better. Sadly, when Barack was still very little, his parents separated, and his father went back to Kenya. Barack didn't see him much after that. Later, his mother married another man from Indonesia, and Barack lived in Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia, for a few years. In Indonesia, Barack saw both happy times and hard times. He went to school, played with friends, and saw how some people had very little while others had much more. These early days taught him to care about fairness and kindness. When Barack was 10 years old, he moved back to Hawaii to live with his grandparents, who loved him dearly. His grandfather, Gramps, taught him life lessons, and his grandmother, Toot, worked at a bank. Barack studied hard and went to a school called Punahou, where he was one of the only black students. Sometimes this made him feel lonely or different, but he read a lot of books and started to think deeply about who he was and what he wanted to do. As a teenager, Barack had some struggles. He didn't always make the best choices and sometimes felt lost. But deep inside, he was full of dreams. He knew he wanted to help people and understand the world. When he finished school, Barack moved to Los Angeles to attend Occidental College. After 2 years, he transferred to a very famous university called Columbia in New York City. There, he studied political science, read even more books, and tried to figure out how he could help others. After college, Barack worked in Chicago. He became a community organizer, which meant he helped people in poor neighborhoods get jobs, improve their housing, and feel strong together. He listened to their stories and learned how hard life could be, but also how powerful hope could be. Barack then went to Harvard Law School, one of the best law schools in the country. He studied hard and became the first black president of the Harvard Law Review, a big honor. People started to notice him. After law school, he returned to Chicago. He became a lawyer for people who didn't have much money and also taught law. One day, he met a smart and kind woman named Michelle Robinson. She was a lawyer too. Barack liked her right away, and soon she liked him too. They fell in love, got married, and later had 2 beautiful daughters, Malia and Sasha. Barack and Michelle shared a dream: to help people live better lives. In 1996, Barack ran for the Illinois State Senate and won. This was his first big step into politics. He worked hard to pass laws to help families, schools, and poor communities. In 2004, he gave a powerful speech at a big political convention. He talked about hope, unity, and how America was one family. People all across the country listened and thought, "Wow, who is this man?" That same year, he was elected to the US Senate. Then something amazing happened. In 2008, Barack decided to run for president of the United States. Many people thought it was impossible. He was young, black, and had a funny name, but he spoke with such hope and heart. He said, "Yes, we can," and millions believed him. After a long and exciting campaign, something historic happened. On November 4th, 2008, Barack Obama was elected as the 44th President of the United States and the first black president in American history. People cried happy tears. They danced in the streets. The whole world watched. As president, Barack tried to help the country recover from a big financial crisis. Many people had lost their jobs and homes. He worked hard to help the economy grow again. He also wanted every American to have good health care. He signed a law called the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. It helped millions of people get health insurance. He believed in clean energy, helping veterans, and making schools better. He said, "We are not red states or blue states. We are the United States." He also ended a war in Iraq and worked to find and bring justice to the man responsible for the 9/11 attacks. But there were hard times too. Some people disagreed with his ideas. Sometimes Congress said no to his plans. He faced racism and criticism, but he stayed calm and hopeful. He was re-elected in 2012 and served 8 years as president. After he left office in 2017, people still loved him. They missed his calm voice and hopeful message. After his presidency, Barack wrote books, gave speeches, and started a foundation to help young leaders. He and Michelle also created movies and shows to share inspiring stories. Barack's personal life was full of love. He adored Michelle and his daughters. He liked playing basketball, reading books, and listening to music, especially jazz and soul. He loved eating chili, and sometimes he danced when no one was watching. His worst times were losing his father, facing racism, and trying to stay strong when people doubted him. His best times were marrying Michelle, becoming a father, and being elected president. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2009 for his efforts to bring peace to the world. He also received many other awards and honors. Why do people love Barack Obama? Because he gave them hope. He showed that no matter where you come from, you can dream big. He spoke with kindness and believed in unity. He made people believe in each other again. And so, the story of Barack Obama is not just about a boy from Hawaii. It is the story of hope, of courage, and of the power of believing in something better. Mr. Donald Trump. He was the 45th President of United States of America. Donald John Trump was born on June 14, 1946, in New York City. His dad was Fred Trump, a successful real estate developer who built homes and apartments. His mom was Mary Ann MacLeod, who was born in Scotland and moved to the United States. Donald grew up with 4 siblings in a busy city family. As a boy, Donald went to school in New York. He was very active and liked sports, especially baseball. But sometimes he was a bit mischievous and didn't always follow the rules well. Because of this, when he was 13, his parents sent him to the New York Military Academy. This was a special school that helped teach kids discipline, which means learning to work hard and follow rules. After finishing military school, Donald went to college at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. He studied business because he wanted to learn how to run and grow his family's real estate business. After college, he joined his father's company and started working on big projects, like building tall skyscrapers, hotels, and casinos. Donald liked to make his buildings stand out by putting his name in big letters on them. This helped him become very famous as a businessman. He also became a TV star by hosting a show called The Apprentice, where people competed for jobs with him. This made him even more well-known. Even though he was known mostly as a businessman and TV personality, Donald decided to enter politics. In 2015, he announced he wanted to become president of the United States. His campaign was different because he spoke very directly and promised to put America first. In 2016, Donald Trump won the presidential election and became the 45th president. This was a surprise to many people because he was not a traditional politician. During his first term as president, Donald worked on many important things. He helped lower taxes so people and businesses could keep more money. He worked to change trade deals to try to protect American jobs. He also tried to build a wall along the border with Mexico to control immigration. These ideas made some people very happy and others upset. Donald had a very busy and sometimes difficult time as president. He often used social media like Twitter to share his thoughts directly with the public. This was new for presidents and made a lot of people pay attention. He faced many challenges, including investigations about whether other countries tried to influence the election. There were also strong disagreements in the government and protests from people who didn't agree with him. Despite the challenges, Donald's supporters liked him because they believed he was a strong leader who spoke honestly and worked hard to protect American interests. On a personal level, Donald has been married 3 times. His first wife was Ivana Trump, and they had 3 children: Donald Jr., Ivanka, and Eric. His second wife was Marla Maples, and they had a daughter named Tiffany. His third wife is Melania Trump, and they have a son named Barron. Donald enjoys playing golf and eating fast food, especially hamburgers and fried chicken. Donald Trump has received several business awards and honors, mostly related to his work in real estate and entertainment. Though he didn't receive major political awards, his impact on American politics has been very big and lasting. Many Americans like Donald Trump because they see him as a businessman who speaks his mind and tries to bring jobs back to the country. They appreciate his focus on putting America first. Donald Trump's story shows us that life can be full of surprises, hard work, and big challenges. No matter what people think of him, he reminds us that being a leader means taking risks and standing strong. And so, remember this. Every day is a new chance to be brave, to work hard, and to believe in yourself, no matter what others say. Mr. Joe Biden. He was the 46th President of United States of America. Once upon a time, in a little town called Scranton in the state of Pennsylvania, a baby boy was born on November 20th, 1942. His name was Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., but everyone just called him Joe. Joe was the first of 4 children born to his mom and dad. His dad, Joseph Biden Sr., worked hard at many jobs. He sold used cars and cleaned furnaces to make sure the family had what they needed. Joe's mom, Catherine Eugenia Finnegan Biden, was a kind and strong woman who believed in standing up for what's right. She always told Joe, "Nobody is better than you, and you're no better than anybody else." Joe's family didn't have a lot of money, but they had love, and that was the most important thing. They moved from Scranton to Delaware when Joe was 10 years old because his dad needed to find work. Life wasn't always easy, but Joe was a cheerful boy. He liked sports, especially football, and he worked hard in school. But there was one problem: Joe stuttered. That means he had trouble saying some words. Kids made fun of him, and he felt very sad. But Joe didn't give up. He practiced speaking by reading poems aloud in front of a mirror and learning to control his breath. Slowly, he got better and better, and he learned to believe in himself. Joe went to Archmere Academy, a Catholic high school where he played football and did well in his classes. After high school, he went to the University of Delaware. He studied history and political science because he loved learning how the world worked and how leaders made big decisions. Then he went to law school at Syracuse University. That's also where he met a kind and lovely woman named Nylia Hunter. Joe and Nylia fell in love, got married in 1966, and later had 3 children: Bo, Hunter, and Naomi. After finishing law school, Joe became a lawyer in Delaware. But soon, he wanted to help more people, so he decided to enter politics. He ran for the New Castle County Council and won in 1970. Just 2 years later, in 1972, something amazing happened. Joe, a young man only 29 years old, ran for the U.S. Senate and won. He was one of the youngest people ever elected to the Senate. He had big plans and a big heart. But then something very sad happened. Just before Christmas that year, Joe's wife Nylia and baby daughter Naomi were killed in a terrible car accident. His 2 sons, Bo and Hunter, were hurt but survived. Joe was heartbroken. He thought about not becoming a senator after all. But his family, friends, and the people of Delaware encouraged him to keep going. Joe took the train from Delaware to Washington, D.C., every day so he could work in the Senate and still be with his sons. People started calling him Amtrak Joe because of how often he rode the train. Joe worked hard in the Senate for many years. He cared about ordinary families and believed in fairness. He helped make laws about education, crime, foreign policy, and violence against women. Joe also got remarried. In 1977, he married a smart and kind woman named Jill Jacobs. Jill was a teacher, and she loved Joe's sons like they were her own. Later, Jill and Joe had a daughter named Ashley. In 1988, Joe had a scary health problem. He had 2 brain aneurysms, big, dangerous bubbles in his brain that could have killed him. But doctors saved his life, and Joe was very thankful. He came back stronger and more determined than ever. Joe kept working hard and making friends across both political parties. Years passed, and Joe tried to run for president more than once. His first try was in 1988, but it didn't go well. Then he tried again in 2008 but didn't win. However, something special happened that year. A young senator named Barack Obama was running for president, and he asked Joe Biden to be his vice president. Joe said yes. Barack Obama and Joe Biden won the election and worked together for 8 years, from 2009 to 2017. Joe helped with big jobs like fixing the economy, passing healthcare laws, and helping American troops. President Obama and Vice President Biden became close friends. Before Obama left the White House, he gave Joe the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian award in the country. Joe was so surprised and touched that he cried. After leaving the White House, Joe thought he was done with politics. But in 2015, something very sad happened again. Joe's beloved son, Bo, died of brain cancer. Joe was devastated. Bo had also been in the military and had a bright future in politics. Joe loved him dearly and missed him every day. It was one of the hardest moments of his life. Then came 2020. The country was facing big problems, and Joe decided he couldn't stay quiet. He ran for president once again. He promised to bring kindness, honesty, and unity back to the country. Many people believed in him, and after a long campaign, Joe Biden became the 46th president of the United States on January 20th, 2021. As president, Joe worked on many things. He helped people during the COVID-19 pandemic by giving vaccines and sending money to families and businesses. He signed big bills to improve roads, bridges, internet, and clean energy. He tried to bring Americans closer together, even when people had different ideas. Joe also supported Ukraine when they were attacked and tried to make America a fairer place for everyone. Even though being president is very hard, Joe stayed calm and hopeful. He smiled a lot and said, "We're going to be okay." He liked ice cream. Chocolate chip is his favorite, and he loved spending time with his family. He also loved his dogs, Champ and Major, and later Commander. He often said that family is the most important thing in the world. Joe's hobbies included reading, exercising, and watching sports. He liked the Philadelphia Eagles football team and loved going on walks. He also liked driving his old green Corvette. Over the years, Joe Biden received many honors. Besides the Medal of Freedom, people praised him for his service, his kindness, and his courage to keep going even when things were tough. Americans like him because he seems like someone you can talk to, someone who listens, someone who cares. He smiles a lot, hugs people, and speaks from the heart. Even when he stumbles or makes mistakes, he keeps trying. People admire him not because he's perfect, but because he never gives up. He knows what it's like to feel pain, and that helps him comfort others. Joe Biden's life is a story about rising up after falling down, about hope after heartbreak, and about believing that tomorrow can be better than today. From a little boy who stuttered and was teased, to a young man who lost his wife, to a father who lost his son, to a president who still believes in goodness. Joe's story is about love, strength, and second chances. And so, the boy from Scranton who rode the train every day never stopped moving forward. He kept serving, kept smiling, and kept believing. And that, dear friend, is the story of Joe Biden's life. A story of courage, kindness, and the power of never giving up. Mr. Donald Trump. He was the 45th president, but he won the 2025 election and became the 47th president of the United States again. After Donald Trump finished his first term in 2021, he wanted to be president again. He believed many people still liked his ideas and wanted him to continue as leader. He started working on running for president again in the next election. During this time, many important things happened in America and the world. People were still dealing with the coronavirus pandemic, which made lots of people sick and caused big changes in daily life. Donald Trump and his supporters had many strong opinions about how to handle the pandemic, including about masks and vaccines. Donald Trump also talked a lot about the election in 2020, saying that there were problems with how votes were counted. This caused a lot of arguments and confusion. Some people believed him and some people disagreed. It was a very difficult time for the country. Even though Donald Trump did not have a second term as president, he stayed very active in politics. He gave speeches, supported other political candidates, and talked to his supporters to keep sharing his ideas. During this period, many people watched closely to see what would happen next. The idea of leadership, fairness, and coming together became very important. Donald Trump's story in this time shows us how much people care about their leaders and how much they want their voices to be heard. It reminds us that in a democracy, it's important to listen, respect rules, and work together even when it's hard. And so, even when things are confusing or difficult, remember, kindness, patience, and hope can help us find a way forward together. Thanks for listening to all such people's stories. Those who worked a lot for the country as president. If you like hearing stories, please like this video. It really helps me understand that you want more stories like that. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any other thrilling adventure. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, every little step you take to learn something new makes the world a brighter place. See you next time.